I actually sound worse than I feel. So if that's any consolation, but no.
Well, maybe for you. I don't know. Some big game over the weekend?
No, I wish I had a more exciting excuse. I think lack of sleep during the trip last week was the primary consideration.
Can I just start with a very quick question on what the White House, your colleague at the White House announced today in terms of the Olympics?
Sure.
This is being presented everywhere as a diplomatic boycott, but in fact, it's not really that, is it? Because U.S. diplomats will be at the games, assisting with the athletes and with others other American citizens who may be there.
Matt, you're welcome to call it whatever you would like.
I'm not calling it.
You or anyone. I don't mean to single out you, but people are able to call this what they like. For our part, what we announced today is that we will not send any diplomatic or official representation to the 2022 Winter Olympics in Beijing and the Paralympic Games, given the PRC's ongoing genocide and crimes against humanity in Xinjiang, as well as other human rights abuses. Now, of course, that does not modulate at all our support for Team USA. We will be behind them 100%. We will be cheering them on. But, of course, we will not have any official or diplomatic representation that would send a signal that these games represent anything akin to business as usual in the face of these ongoing atrocities, crimes against humanity, and the ongoing genocide.
Okay, so then you're saying that there will be no support for Team USA?
Well,
from the embassy or from DS, people coming, there will not be anyone from the State Department or any other agency flying over to Beijing to assist with this?
So, of course, our top priority anywhere around the world, even when we have profound disagreements and take profound objection to what may be going on in certain countries, is the safety and security of the American people. And so we do intend to provide consular and diplomatic security services to ensure that our athletes, coaches, trainers, staff associated with the U.S. Olympic team, that they are secure, that they have access to American citizen services, that we provide as a routine matter, of course, to all Americans overseas. But this is a separate matter from official diplomatic representation at the Games.
But despite the fact that the President or the First Lady or the second, the Vice President or the second gentleman won't be, or anyone else will be there, about how many U.S. diplomats do you think will be deployed to assist with Team USA?
I don't have an estimate to offer at this time. We obviously
rough number. Going back to looking at previous Olympics, whether there has been a diplomatic boycott or not. About how many are we talking about?
Matt, I don't have those historical figures at my fingertips. What I can tell you, though, is that, of course, we do have a large mission in China, given the expansive and consequential nature of this bilateral relationship. So on any given day, today included, we do have a large number of Americans on the ground in Beijing and elsewhere throughout China who can support American citizens, who can provide those American citizen services. You are correct that with major events like this, that presence does typically increase. But today, I don't have any update to provide other than to reiterate that, as you heard from my colleague at the White House, we will not have any diplomatic or official representation at the Games owing to the ongoing genocide and crimes against humanity.
But you will have diplomats at the Games, right?
We will, of course, have diplomats in China.
Okay, thank you. No, at the Games.
Matt, this is really arguing over semantics here. It's
frankly not. I want to know if your decision not to send anyone means that there's not going to be any support. And what you're telling me is that there will be support.
We, of course, will provide American Citizen Services support to our athletes, coaches, staff. Yes. Francesca.
Follow up on that.
Yes.
As you know, many in Congress, and not only in Congress, the Secretary's predecessor were calling for much more tough stances like total boycott of the Games, even by U.S. athletes. And does this diplomatic boycott mean that this is it, or will there be other measure to other forms of boycott? Do you support calls by some in Congress to prevent U.S. Entities to sponsor events at the Olympics? Is there anything else going to be to confront the what you call the genocide in Xinjiang?
So what we have announced today, of course, is the lack of any diplomatic or official U.S. representation at the Games. I also want to be clear that this, of course, is not the totality of the steps we have taken, of the steps we have spoken to in response to the ongoing genocide and other crimes against humanity that are ongoing in Xinjiang. And of course, this has been a priority since the earliest days of this administration, even before he was sworn into his current office. Secretary Blinken made clear the fact that he agreed with the determination that was put forward by the previous administration that what was and is transpiring in Xinjiang constituted genocide and crimes against humanity. We've put in place a number of financial sanctions. We've put in place a number of visa restrictions. We've put in place a number of export restrictions. We've enacted a withhold release order for goods that may be coming in from supply chains using forced labor. We've put out a business advisory. We have hosted a number of UN side events. We have ourselves galvanized joint multilateral statements with the international community. And I think that last point is quite important because it speaks to one of the core strengths of our approach. When the United States speaks, when the United States takes action, the world listens. But when we speak and when we take action with the world at our side, as we have consistently done in the context of Xinjiang, whether it's in the context of the sanctions we announced together with some of our closest allies and partners in March, whether it is in the context of the G7 communique that had quite strong language put forward on the genocide and crimes against humanity ongoing in Xinjiang that came together in June. We have done this consistently. And I think that really is a hallmark of the approach we have taken vis-a-vis the PRC. It is not just the United States taking these actions, but we are often acting in concert, in close coordination with our partners and allies, which obviously will inevitably carry greater consequence and have more impact. Barbara. Sure. Go ahead, Francesco.
Just another follow-up. You were mentioning the international community and how much you consult on with them on that. And over the last 6 months, when we were asking you, would you do any kind of boycott, you were saying we will consult and coordinate with our partner and allies. Is there any other country who is going to take the same stance as you are doing today?
Well, we have routinely consulted with our partners and allies about the human rights abuses, including the ongoing genocide in Xinjiang. And I think that consultation, that regular consultation, you see it reflected in many of the steps that I just enumerated. The actions, the statements that we have put out together. Look,
for the boycott, are you confident you will not be alone on this one?
When it comes to representation at the Games, this is a sovereign decision that each country needs to make. We fully expect that other countries will announce their decision in the coming days and weeks. The Games are a few months away now, so I expect we'll be hearing more from other countries. But this is a sovereign decision that each country needs to make.
Are you confident that other countries will do the same?
We came to our decision based on the human rights abuses, including genocide and other crimes against humanity that are ongoing in Xinjiang. What we know today is that there are many countries around the world, including many of our closest allies, who share these concerns. And you don't have to take my word for it. You can see their concerns reflected in some of the statements that we have put out together, including in the G7 communique that was issued in June. So I fully expect we'll be hearing more from other countries, but I will let other countries speak to their sovereign decisions when it comes to representation at the Games. Barbara.
Actually, that was my question with regards to the Olympics. I have a question on Russia, but I don't know if you want to take other.
Anything else on the Olympics?
Two more quick questions
Sure.
on the Olympics. First, China said it will take resolute countermeasures once it was first reported that this diplomatic ban was going forth. Are you guys concerned at all that this could turn into a tit for tat that isn't actually based on the substance of the genocide and what is actually going on in China?
Look, I don't have a reaction to the PRC's reaction. That itself would get into a cycle. What I will say is that our approach is predicated on these genuine concerns that we have. Our concerns and the approach that we announced today is substantive, it is real, it is concrete. I don't want to try and preview, try and divine what we might see or hear from the PRC going forward. That is up for them to say.
And then just one other thing, American companies that are backing the game's sponsors and the like, is there any message to those companies, or are you allowing them to go forth with their business interests, front and center?
Well, we have gone to extraordinary lengths to send unambiguous messages to the international community, and that includes the private sector, about the concerns that we have with the human rights abuses that are ongoing in Xinjiang. We have done that by speaking out very publicly, by enacting sanctions, by moving forward with withhold release orders, with other steps that the Department of State, the Department of Treasury, the Department of Commerce, the White House, and others have put forward in response to what we have seen take place and what we have seen ongoing in Xinjiang. So the private sector has at its fingertips, and that this includes American companies, a large volume of information of the concerns that the United States has put forward, that we have put forward together with our partners and our allies. And it is up to them to make their own decisions about their practices in relation to what we have very clearly said is ongoing in Xinjiang.
But that's a general message. What is your message to them about the Olympic Games specifically? Do you want them to join the Biden administration in boycotting these games?
We want the private sector to be fully cognizant and to operate with full information with regard to what is transpiring in Xinjiang. It is not in this country, unlike other countries, the role of the government to dictate the practices that the private sector should adopt. But what we have done is put the private sector in a position to operate with full information. And we have engaged behind the scenes with the private sector as well. So again, it's not for us to dictate, but it is for us to make sure they're operating with a full sense of the information. Yes, Will. Yeah.
When did you notify Beijing about this decision, if you did notify them? And would the State Department prefer to have an ambassador in place for the games, Ambassador Nick Burns, or at moments like this? How important do you think that is? It's a diplomatic boycott, or whatever you want to call it, as Matt points out, but there could be incidents that arise then, I assume.
So this decision was rolled out over the past couple days. We've notified relevant stakeholders, but I don't have specifics to offer publicly in terms of what that entailed. To the general point, we absolutely would benefit, and I'm using the we in an expansive sense. The United States would benefit from having in place a Senate-confirmed ambassador in Beijing and other capitals around the world. Look, the point about our relationship with Beijing is worth emphasizing here. This is the most consequential bilateral relationship we have. It is a complicated relationship. It is a relationship that requires engagement to ensure that this competition, which at its core we want to make sure is fair, we want to make sure the American people, American companies are operating on a level playing field, but to ensure that this competition doesn't veer into conflict. It's about establishing those guardrails to ensure that this remains competition, and to ensure that that competition is flat for the American people, for our partners, and for our allies around the world. And so, yes, we would absolutely benefit from an ambassador in Beijing. We would tremendously benefit from an ambassador as talented, as experienced, as respected as Nick Burns. For those who couldn't hear, Matt maligned his sports preferences, but that's neither here nor there. Nick Burns is someone in whom the president has full confidence, as you saw from his nomination. Someone in whom the secretary has full confidence. Someone the secretary knows well. And we would absolutely benefit from having soon to be, hopefully, Ambassador Burns in place in Beijing. But the point remains across the board. No other country in the world, whether it is an ally, whether it is a competitor, whether it may be an adversary, would handcuff itself in the same way that we have handcuffed ourselves when it comes to our diplomatic representation around the world. We are grateful to have in this department a number of extremely capable and talented chargés around the world who have been called upon to take on the role of essentially ambassador in this vacuum that is before us. But no other country would handcuff themselves in this way. It does not further our national security interests. It does not further our foreign policy interests. It certainly does not further any sort of progress on the very, I would say, narrow issues that certain members of Congress have flagged and have put forward when trying to explain what I would say is the inexplicable. Their unwillingness to allow the United States to operate with its full team on the field. So this is something we are treating as the utmost priority and utmost priority here at the department because it is and has to be a priority for this department to have our full team on the field, to have everyone we can in place, working for, fighting for, protecting the interests and the values of the United States and the American people. Barbara. Let me move around a little bit. Yes, please.
So this is
Oh, sorry. Did you have a follow-up?
Well, I'm just wanted to bring up the question on Russia because
Anything else on Beijing? Great.